Hi Rachel, I'm Taylor Wilkowski and it's nice to meet you. For anybody else watching this video, I want to be explaining today to a foster how to work out some issues she's having with her dogs. From what I understand, there's two siblings, about 2 years old, and they seem to be having some leash reactivity issues. This is a very normal behavior. A lot of dogs are very reactive on leash, whether it's through aggression or just playfulness. From what it sounds like, it might be a little bit of both. I'm not really sure. I would have to see the dog in action to really see exactly what's going on. But either way, most of the time when dogs react on leash, it's because they're over threshold or they're hitting that opposition reflex, whether it's with the harness around their chest or the collar on their throat. Now, dogs have an opposition reflex, much like most any living animal. Theirs are located on the throat, the front of the throat, the base of the skull, and the base of the spine where the tail is. So if you were to pull up on a dog's collar, push their butt down to make them sit, they're going to fight you because they're automatically trying to fight this push. Opposition reflex basically is a push into a push. So imagine if you were standing on the edge of a cliff and I were to push you without you realizing it. Your automatic reflex, meaning you don't think about it, is to fight that push. But that's how your dog feels. When they feel that leash or that tug of that collar pulling on their throat, they go into fight or flight, tunnel vision, high blood pressure, they stop salivating, they get, crazy. They start focusing on what the heck it is that's causing this. They don't realize it's the leash that's doing it, and they don't realize, and they don't even stop to think that if they stop pulling, it'll go away. Because most of the time when a dog does ever try to stop pulling, the owner is still pulling back on that leash, causing that leash to stay tight. So I'm going to teach you today how to walk with a loose leash using pressure and release, and how to keep your dog behind threshold. When working with your dogs, I recommend that you use two types of collars. One is a head halter, such as this. This is a halty. The head goes right here. This would clip behind the ears, hitting one opposition reflex. But don't worry, the most of the pressure is going to be put on the nose. So although this will make your dog maybe kind of want to fight and run around a little bit, if you make sure not to have a tight leash constantly, your dog will be okay. So this is going to keep the nose down. I like this specifically, this brand, because this has a backup. This will go onto your dog's regular collar, and your leash will be hooked up right here. If you get the type that doesn't have this and it just has this little loop here, no problem. Put your leash here and also connect it to your dog's regular collar. The collar might have to be a little bit higher up on the neck. Make sure it's nice and loose when you have this on. If you don't see a halty, you can also use a gentle leader or any other type of head halter. Make sure it's properly fitted. You don't need it to be super duper tight. But a lot of times dogs will break out of this and then your leash goes with it and your dog is running free. That's why I recommend a 2 collar backup. The second thing is probably a front clip harness. So you may end up having 2 leashes, which is totally okay. It's going to be kind of juggling. It's going to be a bit of a juggling act at first, but you'll get used to it. So the front clip harness is going to have another leash on it, and this is just going to keep your dog under control in case they get out of their head halter. Or they're just going absolutely crazy. So most of the time you're going to be focusing on the pressure and release of the head halter, and the harness is just going to be as a backup in case your dog is going absolutely ballistic. You never want to jerk on this or use any very harsh corrections. You don't need to keep it super tight so your dog's nose is going up like this. This can easily injure an animal if you're not careful with it. Not saying that you ever will be, but just make sure your dog's not jerking around, freaking themselves out. This can take a little bit of conditioning to get your dog used to it. So start by unclipping it. Have a little treat right here. Put it right here like so, and let your dog's nose come through it. Give him that treat and take it away. Give him that treat and take it away. Just put it on and off a couple of times, then eventually when the dog is used to it being on their muzzle, you can clip it in the back. While it's on their head, give them a couple of treats and then take it off. Do that a couple times on and off until they start to feel more comfortable with it. Then eventually you can put your leash on here because it's going to add a little bit of extra weight. They may panic a little bit, no problem. Put some treats in there, take the leash off, put it back on, take it off. Once your dog is nice and comfortable with that, then you can go outside for a walk. They may still paw at it every now and then. If they do, take a treat, put it in front of their nose, try to redirect them or call their name, get really happy, let them go sniff something so that way they don't focus so much on this and they focus more on their environment. So this is going to keep your dog more under control when they start to lunge and go after people that were unexpected for them. The dog didn't know the people or person or dog was going to be there in that moment. Say you're walking down the street and someone comes around the corner. This is going to help you have more control over your dog, as well as if it sees a dog across the street and it wants to lunge, this will keep the dog from going so far. You know, they can only go so far as their head will let them. So you control the head, you control the body, much like a horse. Remember, no jerking, no hard motions with this. Doesn't need to be super tight, but you don't want it to be really loose either in case the dog paws it off. Just like a well-fitted collar, put your fingers in there. If it fits in there like that, you're pretty much good to go. When your dog is okay using the head halter and the front clip harness, you're ready to go outside for a little bit of practice. Okay, if you all are ready, then let's get started. Okay, so hi Rachel, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm here with Adonis. He's just on a regular harness. For you, I suggest having your head halter with the leash tied to the head halter as well as the collar for a backup, or having two leashes, one on his head halter and one on the front clip harness, so you have extra control and extra backup. So here Adonis is doing just fine, just hanging out. When you take your dog out, don't expect to go very far, just start a little bit at a time. We're going to build their confidence. So if you're going out for your regular walk, just go out. If your dog starts pulling, just stop and chill until they give you something like this. I have my treats here, so you can give your dog a reward. If they get too far ahead of you, you can actually bend down and move back. Good boy. I bend down because it's more interesting for the dog, and I move back because I'm creating a draw for them. They want to come back to me. Good boy. Good job. So this is a good way to get your dog to check in on you as well. Good boy. Good boy. I'm using dehydrated beef liver. Very simple ingredients, just beef liver. I'm getting crumbs on you. Getting crumbs on you. And he loves it. When your dog is coming back to you reliably, move your treat up in between your eyes so they give you eye contact. This is a good way to reinforce them to check in on you while they're on their leash. So they don't happen to see someone and just go ballistic. They're paying attention to you more than their surroundings. Your idea, your job is to be paying attention to your surroundings as much as you possibly can. If you're going down the street just fine, your dog's okay, checking in on you, and someone happens to come around the corner, you're going to try and be Superwoman and hear them from around the corner. Pay attention to any squirrel, dog, bird, person, jogger, biker, cars coming around you. If you sense someone's coming, even from a few feet away or 100 feet away, go ahead and stop and start working with your dog to check in with you. You can have them sit and look at you. You don't have to tell them to sit right away. Just kind of lure them into position or give them that opportunity to give you that behavior and reward them for that. So say there's a dog at the end of this field walking by us. And say Adonis is just fine. Say your dog is just fine when that dog is walking by. That's behind threshold. So we're going to stay right there. We're going to sit here. Just sit tight. I'm going to have my treats ready. Adonis, good boy. Say he were looking at that dog, but he's not reacting just like this. I'm going to get his attention to look back on me and reward him. Keep doing that until the dog or the person or the biker moves past you. And then you can move on your jolly way on your walk. Just walking. Now I have him at the end of his leash. For you, I suggest having a bit of a shorter leash to begin with. Over time, you can give them more leash when they're more reliable. Say that person were there and my dog or your dog was flipping out, going crazy and pulling and barking. We're over threshold. So even though it's probably 100 yards away, 50 yards away, we're just gonna move back a few steps. So say this dog is where this tree is right here, and you can go ahead and look at this tree. Not yours. Okay, so see this dog, Adonis is getting antsy, good boy, or he sees a dog over here. There's a dog right over here walking, I think. Maybe not. Good boy. Good, so Adonis is focusing on something over there. Perfect example. Good boy, good job. I can move him away from that spot, or I can just get him to focus on me. Good boy, good job. And then I'm gonna give him a couple of seconds to take that in so he can learn to have self-control. The idea about this is just teaching your dog to have self-control and learn to think for themselves. What's the matter? What? What's the matter? My goodness. My goodness. Come on, buddy. Adonis. Adonis, come on. I know, come on. Oh, I think he hears flies.
Oh.
Come on, Adonis. Yes, Good boy. What a good boy. Good job. So I didn't ask him anything. I didn't tell him to sit. I didn't tell him anything else. I just want him to learn. Oh yeah, there is a fly. Good boy. I just want him to learn just staying here and be cool. Later on, when you're reliable with that, then I may ask you to sit. Good boy. Good boy, because sitting is much harder for him to do while he's nervous than just standing there and saying, okay. You know, sitting is like, okay, I'm sitting, I'm vulnerable, I'm scared. Good boy, good job. Then when they're good with that, then we can move them around a little bit. We can run around. Good boy. Good job. Good boy, what a good boy. Good job. Get excited. Good job. What a good boy. Good job, buddy. I know, good job. So that shake off for him was releasing stress. He's giving a couple lip licks besides the treat, so he's a little nervous, but he's not over threshold where he's panicking. If you see these in your dog, that's okay. If they start hyper salivating, they're drooling on themselves, they're panting, they're barking, they're pacing, you're a little bit over threshold, so just move back a little bit. Come on, bud. Yes, good boy. Good job. What a good boy. Yes. So now he automatically sits. Good boy. I didn't have to tell him to do that, and he's welcome to go back to where he is. If your dog is pulling on your leash while you're just going down your street, I want you to just stop your forward Stop your forward movement. Apply very gentle, very gentle pressure on the leash until your dog gives you one little step back. When they do, you want to loosen your leash. This is pressure and release. So say Adonis is pulling right now, I'm using just finger strength to bring him back a little bit and loosen it on its own. If you take in all that slack and you keep it tight, he learns nothing. So if I loosen it, good boy! If you're pulling back on your dog's sternum and their spine too much, turn him sideways. Good boy! Now, he also has a front clip harness, so this is what it'll look like if it's on his front clip. Good boy. So he's pulling, it's going to turn him sideways. You're going to do the same thing. Good boy. He pulls, good job, and you loosen. After a while, you can get them used to having a regular harness that clips in the back. Oh, good boy. And he's going to start to pull again. When he does, you're going to do the same thing, just a little bit. He moves back and loosen. This is going to teach him more self-control. So that way when he sees someone, he's not fighting that opposition reflex. He's not going into panic, fight, or flight. He's just, okay, I'm loose on this leash. Let me think for myself. If he were tight and he saw a dog, that's going to make him go, oh my God, something's trying to kill me, let me go after it. Just like if someone had you handcuffed and you see a tiger coming towards you, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. That's kind of how dogs feel. Good boy. So say we're just walking. Good boy. Good job. Okay, he's pulling. Good boy. I can call him back to me, Adonis. Good boy. I know, good boy. Yes, good boy. So you're going to have to kind of move your body a bit. Oh, you're tangled. Let's go sniff something. You can go sniff it. Come on, Adonis. Come on. So he thinks I want him to sit. That's okay. Good boy, come on. I know you're excited, good boy. Okay, so we're going to use this little white German Shepherd over here as an example. Good boy. Okay, so say they're walking towards us. We see it. We're just going to stop before they start to panic. Keep ourselves calm. We're going to breathe and just say, all right, Adonis. Adonis, yeah. Bring it back to us. Have them focus on us. Have a little bit of a shorter leash. If they start to fight and buck and go crazy, we're just going to move back a couple of steps. No big deal. Going to go back here, see if that'll help. If they see this dog way over there. Now again, he's still more focused on the bee or the fly around here than the dog. That's okay. Good boy. Say we get him back here, then we can just reward them. Again, just for standing. We don't need them to sit. If he sits, that's fine. He knows usually when he pulls, if he sits, he gets to move forward. Good boy. Good job. So for you, you would have the head halter on. That's going to keep your dog in more control. I know. Good boy. What? With the harness, it's like also going to be a backup in case he, rips that head halter off. and it's just going to be more control over your dog. And over time, you can fade away from the head halter and use just the harness and see how that does. And when you're working with both of your dogs, you're going to work with one separately, then the other, and then eventually you have to work with them together. Seeing that they're siblings, they're going to feed off of each other. They're going to have that separation anxiety, that panic, kind of that little hive mind. So it might be a little bit more difficult, but just try it. Maybe have a partner with you when you walk your dogs. Have them do the same thing. Set it up where you have friends who have dogs that are nice and calm. Have them walk across the street and just have your dog stand there with you, nice and calm, working on focus, getting the treats on you. Hey, buddy. Hi, bud. Hi, bud. Go say hi to Joe.
I didn't have to.
Good boy. Good job. Good boy. Good job, Bubba. So we're acting like there's a dog across the street and he's a little bit more okay with it. Good job. Now your dog doesn't have to be friendly with every person or dog. We just want them to be able to tolerate it. So if they can look at them and not panic and go crazy and want to play and whatnot, and they can just sit there and look at them go by, then you're good, you're golden. And then you can use a fenced-in area where the dogs are off-leash to be able to play with other dogs at that time. But on leash, it's very common for dogs to be really reactive because they're trapped. They go into opposition reflex, fight or flight. They can't get to where they want to, and so they may have learned a lot of bad lessons. So just try doing this. Take your dog or your dogs out as often as you can in lots of little situations where you can control it. I wouldn't necessarily suggest going to a park that's full of people, but at a time like this, you're perfect. There's just a couple of dogs, there's some squirrels, a couple of people, you have plenty of room. You just have your dog. If it gets a little bit too much and your dog panics, then just move away, come back at a later time. Come early in the morning and try to practice. Good boy, good job. Go on your normal walk at a time when it's not super busy, and again, keep your eyes and ears super open so you can see if there's joggers or walkers coming by. And if you do run into someone, you're walking and oh sorry, your dog goes ballistic, you're just gonna walk your dog, just ignore everything, don't worry, move your dog away until they can be able to focus on you again, get their attention using that treat again, and continue on your way. You want to be able to refix that situation. I know, buddy, I know you want to go sniff. So practice that. And then if you're still having issues, then just reach out to me, and then I will try to do a more in-depth video, maybe where we actually get Adonis up with some other dogs and you can see. Your main goal is to not get your dogs to react, obviously. Come on, buddy. Good boy. You want your dog to be behind threshold. You don't have to, I know you're excited. Good boy. See, he's excited, but he's still in control. He's still on a loose leash. He's just throwing a tantrum because he wants to play, but he's learning to keep himself still. Good boy. And I'm going to reward for that. I'm not rewarding for the panicking behavior. He got rewarded for that. When he got that food, he said, okay, this behavior is done. I'm going to go again. And I just say, okay, I'm just going to ignore that behavior. If your dogs are able to stand with you but bark, that's okay. Ignore the barking. Just reward them for standing. Later on, if they're not barking and they're standing, great. Then you can ask for a sit. That's about as far as I would go. I don't ask my dogs for a down when there's something coming towards them. Makes them a bit of shark bait, makes them feel more vulnerable and threatened. So just ask for very simple behaviors, or don't ask for them right away in the beginning. Just let your dogs give you those behaviors, and then it becomes a natural response. So you don't always have to ask every single time for a sit, for a watch me cue or something like that. Adonis, good job, let's go. Okay, so if he's not coming to me like this, I move closer to him and I move back again. I move closer to him. I know you want to rip. Come on. Yes, good boy. So if they don't want to listen right away, when I'm giving them release, then I go back and put a little bit of pressure on them. I get closer. This is putting pressure on him, and then I give him more release. Adonis. I go back, put pressure. Adonis, good job. And if you're having too much trouble, you could just take your treat, put it on right in front of that nose, and lure him back if you need to. If your dog doesn't take a treat, they're over threshold, so just drop that, move back a few feet and try again. If they still don't take it, move back a few feet and try again. You want to at least get a very simple behavior out of your dog before you quit that lesson. And next time, try to go when it's less crowded or less spooky for them, so they learn a better lesson. Lovely. So they learn a better lesson than not. So Alright, so we'll go ahead and end that there.
Adonis!
Adonis, come here. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. He says, I'm ready to run.
He's like, no.